the frontrunner for 2023's Employee of the Year, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the Judgment Government. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Chris D'Elia is in the studio.
Hey.
Chris has live dates coming up all over the place, and I'll tell you about that in a second. He's got a stand-up special, very funny. I watched it last night. It's available at chrisdelia.com, and it's called Grow or Die, and it's on his own platform. By the way, Oxnard Levity Live, that'll be December 15th and 16th. And then Sacramento, Crest Theater, coming up January 13th, and then January 18th and 19th. That'll be at the Brea Improv. And you can go to chrisdelia.com for all the live dates. Good to see you, Chris.
There. Good to see you, man. Good to be back.
Enjoyed the special.
Thank you.
It's different. Starts off talking about being canceled.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people getting canceled. And I'm never sure what exactly everyone gets canceled for.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of stratas. We all know Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
And then there's Al Franken.
Right.
On the spectrum of men behaving badly.
Yeah.
Would be Weinstein
Right.
at the top, maybe Bill Cosby.
Right.
And then probably Al Franken.
Right.
At the bottom.
Al Franken took a picture like this.
Al Franken, a female fell asleep on a cargo jet.
Right.
Doing a USO show. She was wearing a flak jacket.
Right.
And he took a picture which is pretending to grope her breast.
Right.
But obviously you can't really grope
There it is,
through a flak jacket.
And I don't even know if he was really touching her or not. But anyway.
Normally you don't touch people who are sleeping.
Right.
When you're taking a picture.
Right.
Because then
you don't want to wake them up.
You don't want to wake them up.
The gag's gone.
So she's wearing, if you really think about it, she's wearing a bra, a T-shirt, a jacket, and a flak jacket.
Completely protected by bullets, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
There's none of Al's cuticles could reach her nipples.
Yeah.
That was enough. Now, I think that was during the fervor of it, and everyone was just throwing people. There was like a gondola that was sinking into the ocean and a balloon, and people just kept throwing people off it.
Right.
Trying to get some altitude.
Right.
So where do you land between Al Franken and Harvey Weinstein?
Jesus Christ. I think the people are mad, and then people are either on your side or not on your side, and I think that kind of goes for everything, whether or not you are canceled for telling a joke or something that Al Franken did or anything like that. I just think that people are either going to believe you or not believe you.
Do you feel like you got canceled?
Oh yeah.
It was
I mean, a lot of people will be like, I got canceled, and it's like, no, you didn't.
Right?
Did you lose anything? Were you in the news?
Well, yeah,
they
rules
CGI'd him out of a movie.
Yeah.
Place where
yeah.
he's taking the guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
canceled.
Right. That's canceled.
Yeah,
So
that's canceled.
You have to have a career to be canceled from.
Yes,
I think a lot of people feel like they've got canceled, but canceled from what? They didn't really have the career in place.
Yeah, and then also, people get, I don't know. I mean, like some guys, like who's going through it now? I mean, there's a ton of guys going through it now. Diddy's going through it now, and then people got mad at Matt Rife for making a joke. It's like there's different levels and different, obviously. But can you cancel Diddy? I don't know. He's got $1 billion.
Yes.
Can you?
No, I think you can incarcerate him possibly,
well, okay.
but I don't know if you can cancel
done crimes.
him.
Yeah, sure, of course, but once people come after you, then more people come after you, and more people come after you, and it just becomes this big thing. Or it's like, oh, he actually killed someone when he was, and you're like, what?
So you got CGI'd out of a movie, which is weird. And again, my beef with the system as it was employed is not that we have reprisals against criminals. It's that somebody says something and everyone snaps into action.
Of course, yeah.
People get dropped by their talent agency. People get CGI'd out of movies. People get disinvited to parties.
Yeah.
And we haven't really vetted anything yet.
Right,
Somebody just said something.
Right.
And that's essentially what happened with you?
Yes, that's what Yes, that's what happened. And, you know, I have a bit about it on my special. I talk about it. And this was the special that I wanted to talk about that in. And now I want to just kind of like, you know, now I want to just do like bits that I do, you know. I
guess you do kind of find out who your friends are.
Yeah,
you really find out who your friends aren't.
I think your enemies become exposed.
Yes,
it's like you know, there are people that don't know when something happens and things blow up and somebody is in the news. There is the truth somewhere. And it's not in the news because the news does what the news does. And you know, the people who are close to you know what happened. And they're either on your side or too scared.
Yeah, tell me if this rings true to you, because I've had a little of this in my life as well. It's one thing to have your people who love you, support you, the people who know you, maybe who know the truth. Mm-hmm. They support you, good. And then there's the detractors. There's sort of the haters. Yeah. There's the people that always hated you. Sometimes it's a political thing. It's just this publication is never going to say anything good about you.
Right.
I get all of that. What I don't like is the rando person whose name we know, who maybe you have some relationship with, chiming in when they don't need to chime in. Like I was talking shit about school closures or COVID or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I think Christopher Titus like chimed in and threw a shot. And it's like, hey, we're friendly.
Right.
I've always done well by him.
Yeah.
And nobody was sitting around going, what's Titus's take on this? You know what I mean? It's like when they just jump into it, throw a jab, and then leave, and you're like, what?
Drive-by.
Why was that? Yeah, it's a drive-by. Like, why was that necessary?
Yeah, I just don't, because here's the thing. Look, people wanted people either really, in my career, people have either thought I was really funny or they fucking hate me. It's never, you know, and now there's a reason, right? If they can put a reason to something, they just go, oh yeah, fuck, okay, I knew it, or whatever the fuck they say. But this gave a lot of people a chance to be like, okay, fuck this guy. And there are comedians that have said shit, and when I see them now, I say, hey, you know, I'm not going to act like you didn't do that. You did that, and that sucks.
Right.
And I've said this to people, and they say often, I didn't do that.
Right.
And I'm like, what? Well, yeah, you did.
Right.
Because I see it, and I actually took the screenshot before I came here because I fucking thought this might happen.
Right.
And I go, look.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I don't remember.
Right.
And I say, well, okay, well, I do, because I wanted to fucking like leave. You know, I wanted to not be here, and everything like this was like a fucking stab in my face. So
yeah. I mean, I heard about your issues, but I didn't feel compelled to weigh in. Because I was like, I have no idea what happened.
Comics are it's the worst. They're just like, they just want to, they everything is first draft comedy now, and they just want to make the first joke immediately, and they don't care. It's just like whatever, they don't care. The community, it's tough. The community, it was the worst. That was the worst, one of the worst parts to me, because I was like, oh, I guess I thought naive. It was naive, but I don't know. I thought people were friends and stuff, you know. But it is what it is. And look, you know, it's not. I'm not coming here saying like I'm a fucking angel, you know. But it's like people are like, oh, he inconvenienced. Oh, you're inconvenienced, dude. It's not. I was not inconvenienced. It was not that. It was worse than that.
The other thing is you think you've built up some goodwill with a lot of these people. Yeah. Like you go, I think I've done enough good things for this person for them not to try to throw me under the bus with a lack of information. Yeah. That's the part that kind of is smart.
It's like throwing it under the bus thing that's weird to me. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like when David Alan Grier did that to me on the Howard Stern show, I was like, I invited this guy to every party. I made roles for him in films I made. every time there was something came up, I'd go, let's see if I got a sitcom pilot. I'd go, let's look at David. Let's have David play my neighbor. You're just like, there was enough stuff socially and professionally that was all sort of doing right by him.
Yeah.
That's the part where you think you've built up a little goodwill, you know?
I just don't understand why. I didn't know that happened, but I don't understand why somebody would go on a public podcast and just trash someone. Yeah, like that. That's a weird thing.
Yeah.
And it's what I guess if comedians all have podcasts, and so comedians are all talking all the time. So it's like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
But,
all right, but you're back.
Yeah.
Well, back. I mean, I don't know. Is it a good thing that you've realized that the system can boot you out of it whenever it wants, and so you need to build your own scaffolding and your own system?
The good thing is that you can just be your own system, and I'm fortunate enough to where my fans are coming to my shows, and I'm so grateful. They're awesome, and it's a lot of fun doing what I do, and I just want to make people laugh, dude. I just want to figure out how to do an act and make people laugh, and whereas maybe 5 years ago I was like, oh, what movie could I do? What this, but it's when I think about it, it's like, so I got cut out of that movie, and it's like, did I even really have fun doing that movie? It's like, no,
Right.
A lot of people on the movie were great. But it's like I was in the fucking desert for a month and a half. I canceled a bunch of gigs. I lost money because I was shooting this movie instead of doing Atlantic City.
Right.
And it's just like, what did I want to do that for? To see the movie eventually? I don't know.
Well,
to hope more people come to see me because I was in a movie where I'm not doing stand-up? I don't know. So now, I'm fortunate to do stand-up, and that's who I am. I'm a stand-up comedian. It's who I always was. So I'm happy. And there's good days and there's bad days, and it's there's times where I dwell where I think about the hurt and the pain, and then there's I try to live in a grateful place where I'm with my family, and I'm very fortunate, and I have the friends that I do have, and the people who love me really fucking rock with me now. And I understand that,
Yeah, well, I think it's the New World Order. I mean, in a weird way, it's taken place on a few different levels because, like, famous attorney and Professor Alan Dershowitz are going to join us later in the show. But Alan was thrown out of his group, too.
Yeah.
He can't go to Martha's Vineyard and go to any socials or parties. He goes to the country store and gets yelled at by people on Martha's Vineyard just because he defended Trump.
Right.
And he doesn't even vote for Trump.
Right.
He was just like, look, we live in a nation where you get representation, and he's being accused of something, and I'm going to defend him. And that was enough to get him tossed out. So there's a sort of intellectual academia version of getting tossed out of the club. There's a Hollywood social side
and
of it.
That's why people will not speak up for you because they're scared of getting thrown out themselves.
Right.
It's
but
very odd.
At some point, and you tell me, I feel like when the number of people that get tossed out of the club is greater than the people that are still left in the club, then it ends up being a bigger club.
Sure.
And yet it remains, and it's kind of a funny, if you just break it down this way. I was saying it on the podcast yesterday. So you have, there's a couple of guys like Mark Wahlberg or Kelsey Grammer or something. They go, I support Trump, right? Yeah. And then everyone in Hollywood goes, are you nuts?
Yeah.
That's suicide. That's suicide. Yeah. They're all New York and L.A. But if one guy's polling at 37%, the other guy's polling at 53%, why is it suicide if the club is bigger outside of the smaller club?
But that's what it is. It's like whoever puts butts in seats, which Wahlberg does. It's like people look. Nobody cares except for the money. Like they just, if you're making money, they don't give a shit. Like you get all these corporations that are like, oh yeah, we're for this, and it's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're not.
Yeah.
And I guess people in Hollywood, they either believe that they're for that, or they just go along. I think most of them are just like going along with it, or like, hey, if it doesn't hurt my pockets, okay. But it's just not, it's not. It's just not true. I know these people in Hollywood. I know what they're like. I know that they don't stand for this or that, and I know they're lying. I know that.
Right.
Yeah. So for them to be like, oh, there's this, and I stand for this, and I got to pretend that? I'm not going to.
Right.
And I'll just stay out of it. I won't say you do or you don't. I'm just like,
Well, look, to me, it's always a simple equation. Like if you think, well, Adam, what are your interests? I go, well, I like old race cars, and I hate red turn arrows, and I hate garbage thrown everywhere in L.A. and graffiti and how shitty the freeways look and the potholes or whatever. And they go, okay. But that's something I've been talking about for 30 years.
Of course.
Then you take these companies like Dove, and now they're into the transgender movement.
Right. Now.
How come I've never heard a word from any of you senators, Dove, corporations, Hollywood high rollers, any of never heard word one about the transgender movement. It's been around for a while. Not a peep out of you guys. Now all of a sudden it's job one.
Yes.
Makes me think you're not really that interested in it.
Because they don't care. Yeah.
Right. And whatever the next cause du jour is that's coming around the corner, you'll be into that.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden, you're huge fans of Ukraine.
Right.
You've never heard of Ukraine. You've never brought up Ukraine. You can't find it on a map. But all of a sudden, you know now.
Yeah. And also, they don't, like, people are always like, well, this isn't the truth. That isn't the truth. This, you don't know. You don't know the real issue. Dude, how about this? I don't know, dude. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in the Ukraine, so it's okay for me to not talk about it and not know. Right? I don't have to be like, to be pushed and be like, okay, that sounds good. And with not the information, you don't have the information, you don't know. Yes. And you think, take any star, whoever. You think they know? No. You think Jessica Chastain knows? No. You think she knows what the fuck is going on in the Ukraine?
She has no fucking idea.
No, and neither do I. And then they say, well, silence is violence. Say something. And it's like, all right, well, I can't win then.
Right.
I just want to get on stage and talk about the fucking bullshit I did in my day.
Yes. Silence is violence, by the way, is nonsense.
It's hilarious.
Like, it doesn't even make sense.
I do a bit about it on stage now, but it's just like, dude, it's so wild. You can get into trouble now by not saying anything.
Yes.
When did that start happening? 2000.
Look, there's a purge that's essentially going on, and purge starts off easy. You find out the ones who are loud and say stupid shit, and you purge them. At a certain point, you run out of those people, and now you have to find silence is violence people, but you keep the purge remains.
People need a bad guy. You need a bad guy because these people online, they're not heroes in their lives.
Right.
They're in their house, they're in their job, they work for somebody, and they get told what to do. And online, you can be a hero. You just need a fucking bad guy.
Right. No, it's interesting. They live in a world with a schedule and a boss and a manager and quotas and paperwork and stuff like that. And then they get home, have a little Chardonnay, and now they get to become some sort of alternative universe fantasy hero.
And I get it too. I was watching Squid Game, the fucking reality show that they made. They made a game show of it, And I'm sitting there listening to these people, the talking heads. They'll interview them, and they're like, "When I was a kid, this happened, and my family, and we were refugees, and this and that, or whatever." And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, "Wow, that's really rough. I really feel for this person." And then I think, I don't fucking know this person at all. What if they're making the whole fucking thing up?
Yes.
How the fuck do I know what's the truth? Right? Like some guy's like, my mom never, did this. But because he says it, I know that now?
Right.
Well, let me talk to his mom.
Sure. No, listen. And by the way, where this thing, it's all skewing toward it's like every third celebrity slept in their car back in the day because they were that poor.
I don't
it's like
believe
that's
shit.
statistically possible. 1/3 of celebrities lived out of their car. And then they always do this thing where it's like, well, they down round, I call it. They always go, we were middle class, like sort of lower middle class. Like my dad ran Nabisco for a few decades, but we were very average, average, you know. And it's like, why are you painting this picture, and how much of this should I believe?
They want to be a hero. They want to say, I came from nothing and now look at me and look what you can do. And I want to be inspiring. Well, of course they want to be inspiring. It's weird, bro. It's fucking weird. I get it and I don't get it, you know?
Yeah. All right. Now we have some, we're going to do some Jean-Claude Van Damme, which I just fell in love with when you did it on this show several years ago. It's a weird thing. You know, because I'll watch your stand-up special and I want to go, do some Jean-Claude Van Damme. And then I realize he doesn't need to, and the audience is not going to know what the fuck he's talking about.
I think it's a good thing for this podcast.
But it also, I don't know if you do I know you do voices and sounds and your 3-year-old and all that stuff, but I don't know that you do impersonations per se.
I mean, I people often say, because I'll do them on my podcast, I'll do an impression of somebody and they'll be like, you should do impressions. And it's like, I appreciate people who do impressions, but like, I feel like there are people who do that so well.
Yeah.
And I kind of do some bad ones, and I try to make them funny. Like, I don't know if I stood right next to Jean-Claude Van Damme if I would actually be sounding just like him, but to me it's funny and it's silly and I sound enough like him to make it a joke, you know? And so I do it for like podcasts and shit, but I feel like on stand-up I'd rather just do stand-up. But yeah, I don't know.
Didn't you do an impression of Eminem?
I did, yeah. There's an example. It's like I just did it kind of online. I was in my driveway and I just started doing it.
It went viral.
And it went super viral.
Right.
And you know, I suppose I could go on stage and do that and like probably make some money, but it's just like not what I want to do. I'd rather just do stand up and then the online stuff, and then stuff will happen that's surprising. Like Eminem asked me to be in the music video and play him, so I was like, well, shit, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll do that. You know?
Yeah, it is interesting, the stuff as a comedian that you kind of know works, but you just don't really want to do it. And it's a weird, I for the first time in years on the road last weekend, I did Rich Man, Poor Man, which I never, ever do. It's just rich people and poor people. It's a bit. But the thing that was funny that I was thinking back on is years ago, Jerry Seinfeld came up to me in a parking lot of like NBC, and he just walked right up to me and he goes, "That Rich Man, Poor Man bit, that's your bit. Like, that's your signature bit. That is funny. Right. That's your get her done. Like, that's when that's what you're going to write a book. You're going to do a Rich Man, Poor Man book. You're going to get paid. That's going to be your thing. Right. It's a funny bit. You should do it." And I was like, "Thank you." And then never did it. Like, I did it twice or every other time. But I do realize he's correct.
He's right. Yeah.
And then people go, "Well, then do it." And I go, I'm not. And by the way, this is not me being an artist. This is me just going, I just don't feel like it or something.
You're not. Well, you're not. You're very obviously, and it's why I like you. It's why people, I think, gravitate towards you, is because you're authentic and you want to do what you do. You don't want to. You're not chasing this thing.
Yeah, but it's not Seinfeld's bit. It's my bit. Like, I thought of the bit. I just don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to do the same bit every night.
I have a bit that I do now. Look, I'm a comedian. I don't like jokes. Mm-hmm. I don't like jokes. I don't like jokes with a punchline. There are comedians that do that are fantastic. It's not my thing. There's one part in my act now that I'm working on that is a joke, and it gets a big laugh, and every time I do it, I think, I don't love that.
Right.
And it's not that it's not funny. It's just that it's not really my style. I thought of it.
Right.
I understand it's funny and why it's funny, but every time I do it, I think, this is not really my thing, but I'm going to do it because I know it's the obvious thing to do, and it's going to get a laugh. And every time I do it, I think about it when I'm on stage.
Yes.
And if I had a whole act of that shit, I would be having zero fun.
Yeah, I think there's a balance, I guess is what I'm saying, and a sort of getting over certain things.
Yeah.
Like I used to be very adamant where someone would tell me, "Oh, here's a funny joke or a punch up or something." I'd go, "That is funny, but I didn't think of it, so I can't."
I
do
get
it.
that.
And it was like a stickler with everything.
Right.
And then at some point you realize it's a business, and this is how it works. And Chris Rock has writers. You know, what I mean, like it's a business. And I was in Sacramento, and in my opener, between the shows, he was like, "I got a tag for this bit you do." I mean, another tag, and I was like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah.
And it was like a little bit hacky, but I got that the audience would laugh at it pretty hard. So I go, "I'll try it." I do the whole bit, do the punch up, huge laugh.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I think to myself, "Look, I'm not in it. I'm in it to have artistic integrity, but I'm not here just to beat off on stage."
Right.
Like if that audience gets a big laugh to that tag, then fuck it. I'm doing that tag. And I did. And I think 10 years ago I would have went, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Thanks, it's funny, but that's not mine.
Right.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because you do want I mean, look, you do want the audience to have a good time. It's not like you don't want to have a chip on your shoulder and be like, "Nah, that's a fucking stupid thing because I decided."
Right.
They don't get to hear that, and it's like they love it.
Right.
You know, and it's not like you're sitting here doing the fucking. I mean, you do a 20-minute bit that you don't want to do anymore, and people love you for it. It's like you don't want to do it anymore. You don't want to do it anymore. But also as an artist, you want to keep kind of like proving it to yourself. At least I do. I want to keep proving to myself I can do it. Like every time I do a special. And I do not do that special came out 2 weeks ago, and I had another show the next week, and I had 30 new minutes of material. I was like, so I guess I'll do 30 new minutes, and then 30 minutes of the stuff from the special because that's good to have. I figured 30 new minutes. They know the special just came out. It'd be good. I was on stage. I did the 30 minutes, and then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I got to do the old stuff now. And I'm like, and I said, and I was like, yo, guys, I know some of you have seen the special, and I have I can do some of that stuff, but I really don't want to. So if you bear with me, I'll tell you some funny stories about what's been going on. And they were like, okay, do it. And I did it, and now I have all new material. So if you and that feels good. That feels very good for me. And as long as people are laughing, having a good time, which they were, and we're figuring out this bit all together in this room, then that's to me best of both worlds.
Agreed. All right, so we need to take a break. I want to make sure that people are going to your website. And how does it work?
It's actually really easy. It's chrisdelia.com. Just go to chrisdelia.com, or you can just and then there's a big picture on my website that says "Grow or Die." Click it, and it's one click. It's crazy. It's got Apple Pay. It's wild, actually. It's wild how you can do it. I was like, when I was going to do this, I was like, should we do this or what? Or I don't know. And I'm so happy I did it. I mean, more comics should do this, by the way.
Well, I mean, circling back to, one door closes, another one opens, or whatever it is. I have this kind of saying of change. People fear change; they fight change.
Yeah.
They don't want change. They don't want to move. It starts off when you're 14 and your dad gets a job in Arizona, and he goes, "We're moving to Tucson," and you go, "No, I have all my friends in North Hollywood." You know what I mean? And then at some point, when that kid becomes an adult, and then you talk to them and said, "Oh, it's a good thing we moved to Phoenix because that's where I met my future wife," or whatever the thing is. And jobs, no one wants to get fired from a job. No one wants to contract to end. We instinctively fight change as human beings. We just fight change. But when we get it, it's always a good thing, but it's not immediately a good thing.
Right.
Your first day in a new town, in a new school, and the new kid is never good.
Right.
But contact that kid a year from then is probably good.
Right.
So that's kind of how change works. And so losing your job or being canceled or having Netflix turn their back on you or whatever it is, you go, oh, shit. But then some time goes by, and now you go, I'm going to platform it myself.
Yeah.
And that's where the change comes. And I think many, many performers have gone through this in the last few years.
Oh, God.
And
I know them all now at this point, too.
I know.
Which is hilarious.
There's an encounter group for guys who got canceled.
Yeah.
And, it's a good thing, and it's kind of weird. I always say to someone, I'm going on 15 years of this podcast, and people will say to me, well, did you know what was going on before it started going on? And I go, nah, I was just doing my own podcast. And then I go, well, maybe I had an inkling that I'd just be better as a sort of autonomous being versus in a system.
You were ahead of that.
I always knew I wasn't going to fit into the system. I just knew, I knew I could fake it for a season or two on a show or two, but I knew I wasn't that person. I always knew I wasn't that person, which is...
That's valuable to know that shit.
Oh, no. Listen. When I was like 28, I had a roommate, and his mom loved him very much.
Okay.
And then there was me. And my mom wasn't a fan.
Okay.
And neither was my dad. But his parents were big fans of his.
Okay.
And his mindset from growing up in that environment is like, I'm going to be a leading man in Hollywood. And my mindset was, nobody's going to hire you for anything. You better forge your own path.
Wow.
You have to create your own stuff, meaning you're not playing in this pickup hoops game unless you bring the ball and the Gatorade. You're not just going to get picked. And I had that in my head because my parents put that in my head. Not intentionally,
just
through their actions or lack thereof.
Right.
So I was always like, I got to make my own way because nobody's just going to look at you and go, you need to be part of what we're doing over here. And it'll serve you well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Self-esteem is good. Too much can be detrimental.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, we'll come back. We'll do a little Jean-Claude Van Damme, and we'll do that right after this. Let me tell you about Angie Homeowners. It's a lot of work to own a home, whether it's everyday maintenance, repairs, or dream projects. It can be hard to even know where to start. All you need is Angie, your home for everything home. Find a skilled local pro who will deliver quality and experience. Over 20 years of home service experience. Bring them your project online or with the Angie app. Answer a few questions and Angie handles the rest. Look, you're busy. You don't have time to do all this stuff. Let Angie handle it. Take care of just about any home project in just a few taps. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit online. Visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. ANGI.com. That's Angie. Let them do all the heavy lifting.
You're about to hear a preview of the Jordan Harbinger Show with Bill Browder, who uncovered a massive fraud inside the Russian government and took on one of the most powerful men in the world, Vladimir Putin.
While I was sitting there down 90%, they were going to steal my last 10 cents on the dollar. So I took a decision which nobody had ever taken before, which was to take on one of the oligarchs. I did. I fought back big time. Sergey and I exposed the crime. The same people who Sergey testified against arrested him and then tortured him to try to get him to withdraw his testimony. He was really a man of steel. On the morning of November 17th at 7:45 a.m., I got the call from Sergey's lawyer, and it was the most horrifying, life-changing, soul-destroying news that I could have ever gotten.
For more on how Bill Browder continues to fight for change while being a thorn in the side of Vladimir Putin, check out episode 3, which is one of the most popular episodes of The Jordan Harbinger Show.
I love being a dad. It's amazing. One of the funniest parts about being a dad is sometimes he'll ask me questions that I know the answers to, but I haven't thought about those answers for 40 years. And he said, this is what he says. He says, "What is poop?" Right? Fair enough, fair question. But then the first thing I thought of is like, man, I can't believe it's taken him 2.5 years to ask this very important question, you know? Like there's stinky stuff coming out of his backside and he's just cool with it for that long. To think for 2.5 years, he's just been like, you know what? I'll get to that later. But then I immediately thought, You know what? The reason why he hasn't asked me that question yet is because for 2.5 years, he didn't even know how to ask that question. Like, he didn't have the brain power, which is even worse, you know? To be, for 2.5 years, just dealing with it, every day, multiple times a day, just be like, I can't wait to have the wherewithal to ask about this mess.
Chris D'Elia is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Chris's stool slid down to the bottom, but he may have to get on his feet for some Jean-Claude Van Damme. The special, Grow or Die, just go to chrisdelia.com. Also, tour dates as well, and support him. It's the new world order. People need to be able to live out of the system. And by the way, it's how the system changes, because the system... Bud Light went from Dylan Mulvaney to Dana White.
Oh, really?
Yes. Bud Light
Oh, right.
tried to advertise
They went back to the UFC.
with the he-she.
Yeah.
That cost them a couple billion, and now they went over to UFC. It forces correction.
Right.
Like, it forces the... Now, listen, to be fair, Bud Light doesn't give a shit about the trans community. That's to your earlier point.
Yeah.
This is 10 minutes. Budweiser's been around for 150 years. It's the first time I've ever heard them talk about the trans community. But they correct course. Disney will correct course. All the companies that are doing all the canceling and all the whatever will correct course.
I think it's already kind of heading that way.
Oh, it is.
CK, Shane Gillis is killing it.
Yes.
People are going out to those shows.
That's how it
I
corrects.
think people just want to laugh when it comes to comedy. But
and the companies want money, and then they realize, well, it's easy to cancel Shane Gillis, but if he's bringing in viewers, then we'll let him back in.
Gotcha.
All right, so what do we got, Chris? We have clips?
We do, but let's hear the intro first.
Oh, we have an
intro.
intro.
In a world of madness, morality, and martial arts, it can be tough to find your path. Now, we trust in a greater power.
JCVD.
What would Jean-Claude Van Damme do?
Jean-Claude Van Damme feels like it's a oaks.
This is WWJCVDD.
What would Jean-Claude Van Damme do?
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate warrior, especially with conflict mediation. He solves a lot of problems in all of his movies.
Listen, I don't know if you remember Timecop, but he did the splits in a kitchen.
In the kitchen.
Between two countertops.
Yeah, that is right. I did do that, and I don't know. I can probably still do that.
You can.
I can probably still do that. Yeah.
Timecop was one of these movies like 2012, where the movie 2012 was made in 2010. And that's like Earth becomes flooded when it's like, you do understand we're talking about 16 months
I would
from
say
now. Timecop was like filmed in 93, it was about the year 1999.
And it is pretty impressive how bang on we are.
No, you're way off.
We got with cars. And
you did get the electric car.
Son of a bitch, the turmoil in the world.
Well, there's always been turmoil in the world,
But there is more turmoil now than there was.
But you were talking about time travel, like we would have that by the year 1999.
Well, the turmoil, we got bang on.
You got turmoil, and you got golf carts.
We got golf carts.
But the big thing was the time travel, Jean.
Right, but you don't know if time travel exists or not, because we could be among people who are from the future, but they just don't tell us.
Oh, wow.
And that creates so much turmoil.
And also, in time travel things, what year was that movie supposed to take place
94, and then they went to 2004.
I remember we shot
there
that
went 10 years. 2004? I didn't have a smartphone in 2004. You guys had time travel?
They wanted to go later, but I said no. Because we wanted it to seem like a very soon future, so people would flock to the theaters.
Oh, you didn't want to get too far out in the future.
It was too abstract for people. They wanted to do the year 4000 something. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no, we need people to understand that it was going to be very, very soon in the future.
10 years.
10 years. I wanted personally to do 6 weeks, but they said that was too early, and by the time the shoot wrapped, it would have probably been in the past, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, because you wrap the shoot,
we would have,
you go ahead 6 weeks, but you're still in post.
We would have we would have really had to be really bang on with that.
So, and also, just to be fair to you, Jean, in those movies where they time travel back to 2004,
yes,
or 1844, then they do have time travel in that era, if you think about it. Right? Even if you go back to Western days, you go, well, there's no time travel in Western days. But if you travel back in time to Western days, then the people that are there at the OK Corral are experiencing time travel.
Right. Yeah. You could tell them the information and they can build time machines. So basically, if time travel ever would exist, it has existed.
What year would you go back to? I mean, the 80s and 90s were pretty strong for you,
I would probably go back to 1994. There are some things I would do different for Timecop. And I would remake that movie to be very, very bang on.
So, Jean-Claude, I'm going to open this up beyond Timecop.
Son of a bitch.
Just time you'd like to go back to. Maybe it was, for me.
92.
Here's the time. Here's the best time in this country for me. Okay. This would be like about 1977s. I would call it the best era in this country was mid-Coke, pre-AIDS. Cocaine was good for you, and AIDS didn't exist.
Right.
That's the best time to be an adult in this country.
I was younger. I don't know how old I was. I forget what year I was born, but it would be so nice to drink Coke and not die of HIV. But
No, cocaine.
Oh, son of a bitch!
Yeah, the drug.
Snort. You're talking about.
Yeah, you could freebase, I guess.
To drink Coca-Cola and to snort Coke, well, Coca-Cola is very bad for you, to be honest.
And I'm not talking about cocaine, the drug, not snorting a soda.
It's either diet or not, or regular. Regular gives you cancer. Regular gives you diabetes, and diet gives you cancer.
Diet Coke.
So
before... choose your poison.
Yes. So, and then if you could get HIV back in 1981. That's why in 1994 we pretty much figured it out. I would be redoing Timecop.
I'm still sticking with 77. Cocaine's good for you. AIDS doesn't exist. It's an orgy. It's a moving orgy. Is basically what it is.
One time I had my bodyguard have sex with my wife.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Were you in the room?
Toronto. I was in the room, yes, sitting still. People say that cuck. I would like credit for that.
Oh, you're saying you invented?
Son of a bitch.
You pioneered that.
I was #1 cuck.
Oh, really?
A son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I was.
And that was a Canuck cock because you're in Canada.
I was in Toronto, and I told my bodyguard.
Well, what year was this?
1994.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I would go back to 1994 to film Timecop right around the time I could watch my bodyguard fuck my wife. I'm not with her anymore.
Oh, so you can speak freely.
Right. And he died.
Because he threw a crescent kick to his temple.
Son of a bitch. But it was, I would like credit for cuck.
All right. I'll give it to you. I mean, I don't know what the Urban Dictionary has to say. The Urban Dictionary must have a credit for cuck.
I don't think they would credit.
It's not Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, it's cuckold.
Yes.
Which, I don't know, goes back to biblical times or something.
But it was, for me, it was a revamping of it. So I would like the credit for the urban kind of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So you want to go back to 94 to not only improve Timecop.
Oh my God, yes.
But to watch your wife.
And then to watch, yes. Because I could make Timecop better, and I could probably do that better too. I could have had more, instructions for them or whatever. Maybe filmed it,
Yes. All right. Yeah,
we didn't have iPhones back then.
No. 94.
I would have had to hire a film crew.
The beginning of 94 was horrible for me, and then the end was great. I met Jimmy Kimmel in the middle of 94, and so from the middle on, it just kept getting better. But from the beginning part, that was the 94 earthquake, and that's where all the problems started. So
I don't think we should encourage Jean-Claude Van Damme to go back to 94 because of the butterfly effect. It could have changed your whole path.
Oh,
if he does something
that's
different.
true. Yeah.
But we could have fun with me in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, your wife's a beautiful woman.
She was a beautiful woman.
All right, do we have some vids for Jean-Claude to kind of
Right, yeah. So we just want to
us?
get your take on a couple of situations that we've seen online. We've played some videos on this show even, and just to see if there was something you would have done differently to appease or to help the situation here. So the other day, Adam played a clip of these two girls in Poland.
Oh, it's Poland.
Yeah, and
Makes sense.
and as a prank, one friend decided to push her other friend onto the street while a bus was driving by. Very close to.
She bumps her.
Oh my God!
Goes out, almost gets run over by the back tire. I don't know how she didn't.
And then they
embrace.
Well, she gets embraced. I don't
and
know.
And move on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they move on. So the rest of the story goes that the bus driver actually stopped, got out of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The pusher, the girl who pushed, was fined and was even considered for prison. I don't think she was sentenced, but yeah. So Jean-Claude,
this is in Poland?
Yeah.
Did you hear about the Polish terrorist who tried to blow up the bus? He burnt his lips on the exhaust pipe. Heard that in 8th grade and it stuck.
Chris hates jokes.
They're good for now, but that is right there a very friendly thing to do in Poland.
Oh,
yes.
Man.
That's a cultural thing.
It is the reason why they were. She was. They might arrest her, right? It's because of woke. It got online, and then the pressure was to say this is illegal. But in Poland, I have been there many times. That is a hi. How you doing?
That's a greeting.
That is basically. I haven't seen you in so long. Oh my God, where's the bus? Put them in the tire.
Wow.
The reason why the bus driver got out is to laugh with them.
Oh, it's a common greeting.
Yes.
So it's just a cultural thing.
That is a cultural thing. So what would have I done if that were to happen to me? I would have got up and I would have hugged that person and been like, I am so happy to see you. And also, thank God I did not get run over.
You would have hugged the person?
I would have hugged the person with 2 hands just around the back.
Hug.
Yes.
Hug. Well, what do you call those fur-lined boots?
Hugs.
And then what do you call embracing somebody?
To take the 2 hands and to hug them.
And the boots are called what?
Hugs.
And then the embrace is called?
Hugs.
If you wanted to embrace the boots, what would you be doing?
Hug the hugs.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is nothing more than a cultural greeting.
That's great. I do that every time I go to Poland. We go into traffic. I see all my friends. I throw them into the tires. We laugh. It's so funny.
See, that's why we have you in here because we
I'm
didn't have
very
that
cultural.
We didn't have that perspective. Well, you're a world traveler.
I've been to Poland. Oh my God, I would say 250 times.
You're the muscles from Brussels.
Yes, I've been there.
All right. What else?
Well, yeah, we're not as cultured, Adam.
No, you're not.
All right. Well, let's go to this is a confrontation or a conflict on a Spirit Airlines flight. So a guy was having trouble getting out into the aisle because he had the middle seat, and the guy in the aisle seat's like, hey, we don't need to go yet. I'm packing up my iPad, packing up my headphones. The line's still all the way in the back, and they kind of get into it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one guy wants to get out, but the other guy's like, I'm packing my shit up.
Oh my God.
Steps over and puts his ass in his face.
I love watching that stuff.
And now they're threatening each
This
other.
reminds me of my wife and the bodyguard.
Yeah, it's a cuck vid.
So if you were trying to get out into the aisle, JCVD, what would the move be?
What is that, first of all? Why are there so many seats on that plane?
Yeah, it's Spirit Airlines.
It's commercial. You're
fly
flying commercial.
Yeah, you fly private.
Airplane has 6 or 7 seats in there.
And a bed, the ones you fly in.
Yes,
But
and the
these
shower.
and a shower.
What is all of this? Is a bus.
Well, it's called Airbus. Jean-Claude, but it goes in the air. And they have a lot. Spirit Airline, ever hear of it?
No.
Okay. Southwest, ever hear of it?
Like you're talking about Los Angeles?
No, I'm talking about the airline.
No.
No, okay, so that's the point. You fly privately. You don't know
I let people know.
You don't. No, I don't mean covertly. I mean you fly. I understand there's a language barrier.
I don't hide when I am flying.
You don't hide. I'm saying when I say fly privately.
Yes.
I don't mean wearing sunglasses and a ball cap pulled over
I
your
am
head.
wearing sunglasses and a ball cap when I fly.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm confusing this conversation.
But
you fly non-commercially.
Right.
In privately owned jets,
okay.
right? Other people
agree.
Like us,
yes,
we have to sit in big airplanes with lots of seats, so the airline can make money.
My.
Mm-hmm. So then, when you take all these people and you put them so close together,
right?
Sometimes tempers flare.
Mm-hmm. How about if? Well, you know what? With this situation,
yeah.
You could first of all grab on the top, right, of the ceiling of the, what do you say?
Baggage.
Commercial airline.
Yeah, commercial.
Grab the top of the commercial airline, and then pull your knees up real tight, up to your chin. Smash him in the face coming down, and that is when you go over to the aisle of the commercial airline, and then he is rendered unconscious, and then you walk off. And that is just a basic thing you can do to get out of the situation that's sticky right there.
Just not everybody is as fit as
flexible,
you are, or
right?
Flexible,
but the thing is, I don't know much about flying with a bus. So what I'm saying is, when you take Jean-Claude Van Damme in a situation like that, I can only tell you my world and what I know.
You ever fly on Jeffrey Epstein's plane?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone magically flew. Everyone who admits to flying on the plane now is always, I was there with my wife and kids.
I was there. We're going somewhere else.
We're going somewhere else. Yeah.
Not me. I brought my wife and my bodyguard.
Oh, no.
It was so fun.
Oh, my God.
Wait, what year was that?
94.
Everything. No wonder you want to go back to 94.
This year, I am telling you, was the most fucking amazing year.
Wow.
God, I wish I could go back to 1994.
So practically the problem with, first off, we need to go sequentially when we're getting off the airplane. I agree. Now, there's a bigger issue here, but I've said it many times. The guy who got off was a brother with a shaved head. The guy he had a beef with was wearing a trucker's cap with Oakley sunglasses on top. That is a signal as a Trump voter.
Yeah.
Nobody, I've said it many times. You're basically, that is a dog whistle to the other side.
Totally.
Spirit Airlines going to have a lot of Biden supporters on it. You get on Spirit Airline wearing a trucker hat with upside down Oakley blades on it. You are saying and you're reading your Field and Stream or your Guns and Ammo magazine.
Camo, yeah.
He knows you're a Trump supporter.
Yeah, it's a target.
You're already on this guy's last nerve, right? Then when the beef starts, like if this guy was a brother wearing a do-rag or something like that, this beef may not have happened. He is signaled. And I would argue, just like if you're going to a Raiders game, don't wear a Baltimore Ravens jersey. And you go, that's my team. And I'm looking out for your own safety.
Right.
If you're flying Spirit Airline, don't wear the Oakley blades on the trucker's cap. You're going to have a target.
It's the bat signal for the Trumps.
Right. We know that's MAGA country shit, right?
Yeah.
Don't take it off. Put a beanie on or do whatever, but don't put the sunglasses in the backpack.
Right.
Okay. So this guy was already on this guy's last nerve. But you have to get off sequentially because otherwise the guy on the aisle just sits there with the other guy's ass in his face the entire time. That's the problem.
Yeah,
you
it's
have to
awkward.
get
Now
up
they're just standing
and
there.
leave a space. But also, what the brother experiences, what I experience, which is climbs over the guy, stands in the aisle, and now he's going to stand there for 20 minutes because we're not going anywhere.
Totally.
And I experienced this on the road. Like, you ever do that move where someone's driving 22 miles an hour in your fleck?
Yeah.
Do the high beams. You go, fuck you, and you go around the guy in your speed, and then you miss the signal, and then you sit there, and then the guy creeps up right next to you, and you have to pretend like you don't notice he's there.
And by the way, then they go, "Oh, Adam Carolla."
All right, let's do one more for Jean-Claude.
All right, so here there's a guy at a mall.
Okay.
He's walking his dog.
Okay.
Big, I think it's a golden retriever, and his dog has to go up the escalator. He gets nervous.
Okay.
He won't go up. So
the dog doesn't
want to go up.
So he picks him up.
Yeah, picks him up.
Mm-hmm. Hangs on him,
and just carries him up the escalator.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people love this technique. They say it's very wholesome.
Well, they like the dog. It's a sweet dog,
like
and the
the
dog
dog.
looks like he's hugging him.
Is that the right move, JCVD, to just lift a huge golden retriever?
Where I'm from, dogs have never been upstairs.
There's no upstairs for a dog.
But I have done this with other. I've done this with other animals, but not a dog. And this is one thing weird about this. You're not thinking about this, but the dog's dick and balls are all over
Yes,
his
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that is where I am from.
Yeah. He's using this
That is
guy's.
That's illegal.
He's
huh?
using
It
this
is
guy's
illegal for dogs, yeah.
shirt like a moist towelette.
Yes.
He's wiping his ass and balls and dick on it. He's probably scared, so there's a little pee coming out.
And also, the man's hands probably have some poop on there because
Yes.
he's holding his anus.
I like this
Right.
policy of where you're from, dogs never come upstairs.
No.
I like that because if you think about it, upstairs is where the master bedroom is.
And I am the master.
The dog doesn't need to sleep
Doesn't
on the
need to go
bed.
up there.
The dog should be downstairs. The food's downstairs, and any potential intruders are downstairs.
Right.
And that's where the dog bed should be.
Yeah.
I like that cultural policy. Is that a Brussels thing?
It's a Brussels thing, and that is how we like it.
No dogs have ever been upstairs.
No dogs or women upstairs.
Or women.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Now we're really talking. No dogs or women.
Yes. Upstairs is for the men and horse.
A horse.
Man and horse.
Wait,
Not for wives.
An horse. Well, a horse. Is that what I'm saying?
Whores or horse?
Horse?
Oars.
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 Like for propelling a canoe?
No. Oars.
men.
Whores.
Yes.
Whores?
Men.
Prostitutes.
Prostitutes, yes.
Yeah. So no female.
No
No
Women.
wives.
No
No
wives,
ladies.
no ladies, no ladies
Right.
for upstairs. Mm-hmm. No dogs and ladies. Mm-hmm. Upstairs, men and oars.
So how
pay
would you
for
pronounce the paddle that the crew team uses on Harvard?
Oars.
Okay, and then what about a prostitute?
Oars.
And then what about famous director Orson Welles?
Oars and Wells.
Okay, all right. I'm just wanting to be consistent.
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And then what about Mork from Ork?
Mork from Ork.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to. I'm looking for clarity.
There you
That's
go.
all. All
It's
right.
very nuanced.
It's very nuanced.
Yes.
Yes.
Nobody, when I talk about all those four people and things, nobody from where I'm from would say, which one are you talking about? They know.
They know you're talking about prostitutes.
No oars upstairs. They know I am not talking about rowing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. No, stupid.
Yeah, we
right.
can't hear it, but
Out of context.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So no
Yeah.
oars upstairs.
And put the
no
oars, put the oars in the boat could mean put the paddles and then also to have oars in boats is absolutely amazing.
So
You can have both of
So,
those.
just from a contextual standpoint,
Yeah.
for your people,
Yes.
women, ladies aren't allowed upstairs, but oars are allowed upstairs,
100.
and we would all know what that meant. But
Yes.
if someone said put the oars in the canoe, that might be a coin toss.
100%.
We don't know. We don't know.
You can put, but as is, no ladies on the boat.
Right, no ladies. But put the oars in the canoe and paddle to Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Yes, if you don't have oars in the boat, who's going to use the oars? Right?
I didn't know where you're going there, but I'm saying, like, if you don't have the oars in the boat, how are you going to get around? But you're saying, who's going to paddle?
Son of a bitch.
That's right, because you're eating and stretching.
100% I'm stretching and eating.
So just for clarity,
Yes.
can you just repeat that last statement?
Yes. No oars. You need oars on the boat. Because if you don't have oars on the boat, who's going to use the oars?
Right. Now it makes sense. You had to slow it down a little, but now I can kind of picture it.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. Do we have an outro?
Jean-Claude Van Damme believes
That's what Jean-Claude Van Damme would do.
Wow, it was excellent.
I'm glad I could bring him by.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a quick break, come back, do a little bit of news with Chris, and that'll be right after this. Morgan & Morgan. Let me lay a stat on you. People 15 to 24 had the highest rate of emergency room visits due to car accidents of all the age groups. Oh, man, my kids are in that age group. Now I'm worried, but thank God there's Morgan & Morgan. If you're ever injured, you can check them out. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, over 100 offices nationwide, more than 800 lawyers, more than $15 billion recovered for 300,000 plus clients. Morgan & Morgan has proven that they have a track record, and they will fight to get you the full and fair compensation. They've been fighting for people for over 35 years. Racing my vintage cars is hard, but submitting a claim for Morgan & Morgan is easy. Am I right, Dawson?
If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Adam or dial #LAW, #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/Adam or #LAW, #529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement. As we venture into our 15th year of podcasting, here's another memorable moment from the Adam Carolla Show's Ace Awards archives.
they take Jean-Claude Van Damme, drive me to set, then I am JCVD.
Right. Well, yeah, back to the movie. You play a bank robber or something?
I play, Jean-Claude Van Damme plays bank robber JCVD.
Right. I'm just having trouble wrapping. I don't want to
it's different,
upset
like Jean-Claude Van Damme believes in, abortion, but JCVD, no.
Oh!
Little different.
Yeah. And how about, like, climate change?
JCVD, big on climate change.
Uh-huh.
Jean-Claude Van Damme feels like it's a hoax.
It's hoax?
It's a hoax.
It's a tree.
No, not oak tree.
Oh, hoax.
Correct.
Hoax.
Hoax. Hoax.
Now, for some new memorable moments, let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
It never gets old. It just doesn't get old. Chris D'Elia is in studio. He's got a great stand-up special, and it's called Grow or Die, and you just go to chrisdelia.com, and you get it. All right, we'll do a little news, and then Alan Dershowitz will join us.
Yeah, so we recently talked about LA City Council banning bull riding. That's a thing they're focusing
working
on.
hard.
They're working hard.
They know their constituency.
So
they prioritize. Is what it is.
Yeah, on Tuesday they had a whole meeting about banning bull riding.
Okay.
Unless it was for people of color.
Right.
We're okay with it. So
bull riding.
Some California toy stores now have become targets because they need a gender-neutral toy section by January 1st.
Oh, really?
Or they will face a penalty of up to $500 under a new bill signed by our very own Gavin Newsom.
Prioritizing, working big to small. Problems-wise, I don't want to sound like a caveman, but I don't know what gender neutral is. Like, I know there is dolls and there's Tonka trucks and then there's Legos. So I guess Lego
blocks.
I guess technically, but does it mean they have to have? Yeah, actually, I don't know what that means.
Monopoly.
Either, honestly,
What would Monopoly be? But my point is there is a general neutral aisle. It's really called the whole store It's the whole store because you go into the toy aisle and you go, I'm going to get a truck and I'm going to get a dolly. And then someone goes, well, get the Parcheesi set too.
Right.
And get a quart of milk. Like, I don't know. Is the milk's gender neutral?
Does it say what that is?
It just says regardless of whether they've been traditionally marketed for either girls or for boys. But these stores have to be big retail department stores.
Sure.
Total of 500 or more employees. But I mean, $500. If you don't want to do this, you could just pay it and just move on.
That is
right?
true. It's not much, maybe for a toy store, the big company, but still, the principle is fucked up. But what?
Let me see some examples.
Here's all I'm saying. Gavin Newsom. People are looking for excuses to leave California.
Right.
Give them reasons to stay, and it's not more regulation. More regulation is just another excuse for them to go to Florida or Texas and set up their headquarters there. Number one. Number two, I have a theory, Chris, and I'm curious what you think of it. L.A. and California is kind of turning into a shit show. The homeless problem is off the charts. We got a lot of crime now. Our roads are the worst in the country, and our schools are failing as well. So if you kind of take the big stuff, roads, traffic, taxes, we get taxed the most. Price, the craziest thing, and you travel and I travel, I was just in Nashville. I'm looking at gas prices that start with a 2.
Right, crazy.
2. You go, this starts with a 2. All ours start with a 5 or 6. Like, what the? So the big stuff is pretty fucked up.
Right.
Now, I have a theory, and my theory's always been Gavin Newsom and the LA City Council work on small shit, because when you hear that they're working on small shit, it makes you think the big stuff is working. And here's what I'm saying. If I said to you, if I said, Chris, I want you to come by my house. I know you're thinking about building a house soon. I want to show you a few things. I just want full stainless steel in my garage. I got all stainless steel. It's all Euro cabinetry. Cost a pretty penny. Full extension Accuride ball bearing slides, self-closing Euro hinges. Like, I just did my garage up like it was a NASA space center. It is awesome. If you came to my house and walked into my kitchen and there were raccoons fucking in the sink and a grease fire, you'd be surprised, because you'd be like, well, he was talking about his garage. I figured the rest of the house would be a palace, right?
Of course,
because by the time he got to this kind of detail in his garage, the master bedroom, the home theater, everything has to be
to
perfect. But you wouldn't picture squalor and filth, right?
No.
I think they concentrate on little bullshit things to make us think like that's what you do if all the other stuff was fixed. But they hop right past all the big stuff and go to the minutia, which is insane.
Yeah, in a way, they're saying that if we don't pay attention to it, if we don't put it in the media and what we're talking about, then people might forget about it. But why? But here's the other thing: why? I know a lot of people in LA. I don't. And granted, a lot of my friends are like-minded. I don't know one person that would think that was a good idea to have a gender-neutral.
Or really what it
find
meant.
someone not to. So that's not even a good idea.
Or somebody who's been affected. You know all the times you take your gender-neutral twins to the Target and they can't find any toys. It's like a bad comedy premise. Like, you're bringing up something. It's like saying, every time you're in a rush, you're on the freeway and you get behind some German guy in a Porsche and you're no. I don't know what the premise. Who's this ever affected? Whoever raised their hand. This is the whole point. This is where his priorities are. His last decree was creating the Ebony Alert just for missing black kids versus the Amber.
Really?
Yes, we have an Ebony Alert, an Amber Alert, and a Feather Alert for missing American Indians. The whole point is he does nonsensical, everyone is sitting here going, could we get gas down under $5? Could we get a school system that's working? Like, could we get all the garbage
in my driveway?
A guy just peed in my driveway. Can we do that? And they're like, hold on, we need the Ebony Alert. Right.
Because Amber was a white. Is that named after a white person?
Amber was for everybody.
I know that.
But they didn't look for the black people hard enough.
Okay.
But yeah, Amber was a girl's name.
Figure
Right.
Yeah,
so, but
Ebony's
then
obviously-
Ebony, it just sounds like racist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Now
all
it's-
this stuff falls under the heading
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
of
Yeah.
racist. Like,
You just can't win because it's just gonna. That's a no. That's a no. That's not good.
so the gender neutral, again, what is that?
I don't know.
So it's
How
like,
does that
it's
manifest
like, yeah,
itself?
blocks, instruments.
But that all toy fucking stores have that.
yeah, exactly. So they will already have it. I think they just have. I don't know. Maybe you have to label.
But here's
that.
the whole point. We now need a guy who's been deputized by the city to come in and do a report on your aisle if you're at the Target in Glendale. That's another job.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's the
Right.
point. Take that fucker, put him in an orange vest, give him a mop handle with a nail on the end of it, and have him pick up garbage around the 405.
Better use of
Much better
money.
use.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I get it
All
for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Agree. Hard agree.
Thanks.
So speaking of getting canceled, Tim Allen is getting dragged right now.
Again?
Again. So this is actress Casey Wilson. So she went on her podcast, aptly titled Bitch Sesh, and she said Tim Allen was such a bitch when we're working on him for the Santa Clauses, one of his.
Yeah.
the sequels
Did
of Santa
Hench
Claus.
write that one? I got to look it up.
I'll check it out. But
I'll talk to Hench. I'll get the real
she
story.
says it was the truly single worst experience I've ever had with a co-star ever. Everybody.
Okay, hold on a second. Did she have a big role or a small role?
Who is this?
Small
What's her
role.
name?
If you have a small role, then fuck right off. I don't care. But,
The whole
Casey Wilson.
the whole thing.
We'll find out where she comes in the credits, Dawson or somebody, or
the
what her
whole
part was.
thing with this is bosses are dicks.
Yes.
When have you ever heard, sometimes bosses are good guys, but like the whole Ellen thing,
Yeah.
when people were like, Ellen was a dick.
Yeah.
She's the boss.
Yes.
Who's like, hey, my boss is amazing. I mean, yeah, some people's bosses are amazing, and that's great. But dude, so someone's a dick. So
Yeah.
don't do that job, or like Steve Harvey when that came out, where it was like, oh yeah, all of his rules and shit. It's like he's the boss.
Yes. I agree.
I don't work for it.
Listen, it's a tearing down of a hierarchy.
Of course
it's
it
a
is.
problem. But also, it's called work. It's not a bouncy castle. It's time to go to work. That's people understood what work meant. And then people go like, I'm not being fulfilled. You're not supposed to be fulfilled. You're supposed to get paid. And then if you don't like it, you can leave. But, and listen, I'm sure, I know Tim Allen. Tim Allen can be prickly.
I don't know.
And I'm sure Ellen is prickly.
Yeah.
It's their prickly prerogative.
I don't know Tim Allen, but of course Tim Allen is a dick. What, you know what I mean? Like, who's going and being like, oh, you just fucking navigate it. Be better at navigating.
Yes. Yes. Be better at navigating.
I've worked with some pieces of shit, dude.
Yes.
I've worked at pieces.
They would say the same.
I've seen people assault people on set. Like I've seen it. It's like, dude, you navigate it. It's shitty, and you figure it out.
Yes.
You go online.
No, you know,
25 years later and bitch about it.
You know what this generation is? Oh, this is new though. This is the new Tim Allen Santa Claus thing.
Yeah,
Is
it's a
that
new
what you're talking
series.
about?
Yeah.
All right. There's a new thing.
the new one.
Let me tell you, you're going to experience this.
Got it.
In a few years.
Okay.
Your kids are going to come home and you're going to go, weren't you going out for the football team this year? Are you going out for the basketball team this year? Or what happened to the science fair? And they'll go, ugh, coach is mean.
Right.
I'm not doing football this year. He's mean. I don't like the guy. He's a mean guy. I go, well, look, his job is to kind of yell at people when they do shit that's wrong, so he can coach you guys. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not dealing with that. Like, it's a new thing.
Interesting.
Kids, young people, they don't put up with shit. And we look at that as a step toward the light. Like, that your coach is mean? Fuck him, quit. I had mean coaches, tons of mean coaches. I never took it personally. They wanted to win. They had their own way of doing it.
Yeah.
We weren't hanging out after practice. I get it. It was nothing personal. That's just who they were. Kids do not get it. You have to be nice to them. I don't care if it's their coach or their Starbucks manager. Then everyone needs to be treated with respect and dignity. And Tim Allen has been in this business for 45 years. She's been in it for 10 minutes. She's got some sort of walk-on role that's a half-day shoot, and she needs Tim Allen to show her respect.
Yeah. Well, you want to hear some of the things that she said?
Sorry, I'm looking at my screen. Kevin Hench didn't do this Santa Claus.
No, he did. He did. He's
Leo Benavido and
listed
Steve
under one of the
Rudnick
writers.
wrote Santa Claus.
So
She's one of the writers on the series.
Oh.
But
That's what I was told.
Oh. Well, now we need to figure it out because I've got two writers that aren't Kevin Hench, but I can ask him. Because there's 4 different Santa Claus things that they're.
I see it as a series writing credit for an episode.
I just don't get okay, so she says that he's a dick, and then okay. What's
now
the
what?
thing?
That's my thing.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Yes.
So she says when she was doing a scene with him, he goes over to the producer who's standing 4 feet from me and goes, "You got to tell her to stop stepping on my lines." So the producer, with horror on his face, has to walk 1 foot to me and goes, "Tim would ask you to stop stepping on his lines." And then she says everyone was walking around eggshells around him all day. People looked frantic. He never made eye contact. It was so uncomfortable.
By the way,
that's nothing.
Lack of eye contact is zero burger. That could be you staring at your phone while people walked past you.
Or what if Tim Allen was like, "Oh, I don't think this woman likes me, so I'm just gonna."
Right.
Who knows what the fuck's going on with their head?
And walking on eggshells is in her head.
Of course, 100%.
Yes.
Navigate better, like I said.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess when he would leave, he would just announce leaving, take his Santa cape, picks it up and drops it on the floor and walks out, so somebody had to go pick it up. She says this. And
James Brown would do that.
Someone from the crew would walk up to her and go, "You're seeing him on a good day." So
all right, so a couple things. There's 2 things. There's your sort of temperament. Some people have a temperament, like a wiring, like a dog. You know, some people are a little persnippety, and then others have a lot of things they're dealing with. And what I'm saying is when Tim Allen is walking off the set, he's walking in another room with writers and having a discussion about changing things and fixing things, and they're arguing about stuff that's not in the budget and stuff like that. You don't know what all is in his head. Number 1. Number 2, that could be his wiring.
Yeah.
Get the fuck over it.
Right.
It should
Also,
show up, do your job, and leave.
Also, if somebody was a dick to me on set, I'm going to say, "Hey, man, like, what's going on? Do deal with it then." You don't go on a fucking podcast later on.
Yes.
And let's dude.
I agree.
It's just whack.
Now, she just had like one scene or one day.
Yeah, she
or...
played like the older version of one of the kids in the original movie.
All right, she should shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So well, anyway, Tim Allen is getting dragged right now.
Except for not really, because no one really cares.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No one really cares. All right, good.
So the Toohey family from The Blind Side. So,
yeah,
they're now claiming that Michael Orr tried to shake them down from millions. Tried to shake them down from millions, and threatened the family. So I mean, there's been a lot of drama this year over the Blind Side movie and the rights and all the people and all the money they've made off it. And this guy feels like he's not getting compensated fairly for telling his story. And so now it's come out that he was actually threatening the family.
He was trying to extort them.
Extorting.
Well, okay.
Boy, you never would have thought that.
He had 10 years in the league. Like, he should have had some rainy day money set aside. He's a starting tackle in the league for a decade. I mean, I don't know his entire career, but he was a big name offensive tackle, 10 years in the league, maybe 11, maybe 9. I don't know. Played for the Ravens, like definitely had some multi-million-dollar contracts going. So he should have had some money stashed aside. There's a thing that I realize that happens sometimes where it's like a lot of people have it in their head. It's kind of a simple way of business, but it'd be like if I said, hey, Chris, you should do this bit when you went. Next time you go do stand-up, you should go do this bit. Or do Jean-Claude Van Damme. Super funny on it. And then you started doing it, And then you started just blowing up. And next thing you know, you're selling out arenas with your Jean-Claude Van Damme. And then after 3 years, I come up to you and I go, hey, man, I told you to do it. And you go, yeah, I said thanks. Yeah. And then I go, you've made millions and millions and millions of dollars on your Jean-Claude Van Damme arena tour. And you go, yeah, I did. And then I'd go, well, shouldn't you break off $10 million and give it to me? And you'd go, no, or yes, but you don't have to. Right. And then I'm go, you know what? I'm suing him because I told him to do. Right. There's a lot of like, I told you, or this was saying. You don't necessarily get paid just because
you have an idea.
You have an idea, or you were in the story of the couple that did it, or whatever. There's a million of those stories, and the people who don't get paid go, but look how much money this movie made. It's like, yes, they made that much money, and then. You know, the woman who invented Post-its was working for Dow Chemical at the time, and she was making $40,000 a year, and that's how much she got paid. Right. Because she was on the clock when she came up with Post-its. I'm screwing up the story, but you know what I'm saying.
I get it.
That's where we're at.
I don't. I mean, if they bought the rights to it. Or no?
Well, I mean, it's kind of both it's all of their stories, but he was included. But he taxed like, I need $10 million.
That's
if
no, he's
but
wrong.
All that being said, I'd like you to sign a document quick before you leave that just states simply if you do start doing Jean-Claude Van Damme.
And that would be different if I did sign that.
That we just kind of memorialize
just get it in
I
writing.
guess.
It's easy.
It's quick. We'll take a picture of it, the current newspaper.
You guys are good guys. That's all. I don't know. It's so weird, but I don't. Can't you? Unless you're buying the rights, or I don't really know. I don't know much about that story. I don't know honestly how it started.
Well, he thinks he was more.
I never saw the movie.
He was more deserving.
Well, it's like the Winklevoss twins. You know, it's like we came up with Facebook or whatever, and it's like And then they go, at some point, they get $80 million or $100 million or whatever it is. And they go, $100 million? That company's worth $200 billion. And they're pissed off.
Right.
But my take on it is you got $100 million.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So Britney Spears, her dad, it's been reported that he had his leg amputated about a month ago.
I know. What? I heard that.
Yeah. So he's been in the hospital for bacterial infection. And eventually they just had to amputate one of his legs. Now, remember, she came out with that memoir, and she did a lot of venting and talking trash about her dad, Jamie.
Yeah, it's down.
Yeah, but now it's being reported that, I mean, she posted a picture of him on her Instagram. Maybe they'll be reconciling for the holidays.
Maybe she just didn't like his leg.
Maybe the leg was the issue. Dad, that right shin.
Yeah. Finally, now that's out of the picture.
Or maybe he, when she was a young person, he used to kick her. Maybe it could have violated her with a big toe.
Totally.
It could be leg centric. The leg is gone. You know, people do that. There's a lot of people I know get like a really shitty stepmom. Yeah. And as long as Beatrice is around the house, they're not fucking hanging out with dad anymore. But at some point, Beatrice dies. Now they go back up to hang out with dad.
Beatrice is the leg in this story.
That's the metaphor of the leg. You're right. This could be leg related. Never thought of that.
Could be.
So maybe it is a time for reconciling now. And
now that the leg's gone.
Yeah. The real problem, the real issues.
Hopefully they get rid of that leg. You know what I mean? Hopefully it doesn't show up anywhere.
Comes back.
Yeah.
Years later.
What I mean? Reanimated.
Yeah.
With a vengeance.
Well, you never know what the way the future's going. I mean, you know.
Could be 2004.
In Timecop, we wanted to do reanimation of shins.
So, JCVD.
Yes.
Michael Orr, the player.
Yes.
How would you pronounce his name?
Michael. Oh, you're saying his last name?
Last name.
I get it. Orr.
Oh, Orr.
Yes.
I thought it'd be whore.
What is, how do you spell?
I spell fine.
How do you spell for Michael Orr?
O-H-E-R.
O-H-E-R. Oh. Okay, so it would be Orr.
Orr.
Right.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So if he was on a boat.
Orr. He would invite the oars to use the oars. And we would sail.
Do you know the theme song to Mr. Ed?
Oh, yes.
Dawson left-
Horse is a horse.
Left the room.
Right?
Yes. Let's see. See if we can find
horse
this.
is a horse, of course, right?
Yeah.
That one, yeah. Horse is a horse.
We'll play you the
Something.
theme, and let's see if you can see if Jean-Claude can put his own theme on.
A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of
Oh
course.
my
That
God.
is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. A. Go right to the source and ask
This
the
is
horse,
about
he'll
women you
give
pay
the
for
answer
sex?
that you endorse. He's always on a steady
Start at the
course.
top one
Talk
time,
to
let's see.
Mr. A.
This is a big
Horse is a
sitcom.
horse, of course.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Mr. Red.
A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless
A horse is a
the
horse, of
famous
course.
Mr. A.
No one can
Go
talk
right
to
the
a horse,
source
of
and
course.
ask the horse, he'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's
This is a
always
huge
on
song in
steady
I know, it's a big
course.
song.
Talk to Mr. A.
So many streams this has on in Brussels.
Oh, Mr. Ed was big.
We listen to it in orgies.
I can't believe that was a sitcom. This is a sitcom. They give a horse peanut butter, and the horse would be like, "Oh, Wilbur."
Yeah.
Sitcom.
Millions
Prime
and millions
time.
of people watch it.
Prime
Crazy.
time. All right, let's do one more here.
All right, let's see. So Sylvester Stallone, who JCVD, I mean, you were in the Expendables
One
with
of
him.
a great guy. Yes.
Do you see his documentary?
No.
I did.
You did.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Oh, you gotta
will
see it.
watch
I heard
it
it's
now.
great.
That's great.
So anyway, his wife, they talked about moving to Florida, and basically admitting that there wasn't really anything left for me in California. So she spoke with Fox News Digital during Rocky Day, which
Oh, right. Yeah, that was the other day.
yeah, that was the other day, and she joined her husband, and they said that they're just really happy about their move to Florida.
Well, they moved?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, she said she was born and raised there. 2 of their kids were born there.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they're talking about California, excuse me. But then
Oh.
now everyone's out. Our daughters moved to the East Coast, so there wasn't really
Right.
anything left
Yeah.
for us in California. A few of our best friends moved, so Rocky has now moved. And
I was
my
at their.
wife has moved to
I
Florida.
went to his house in L.A. It was amazing, and I guess he sold it. Wow. Okay.
You know, he sold it too.
Oh wait, I do.
All right, you'll think of it.
Fuck who?
I'll buy you some time.
No, I don't know.
Okay, then
He sold
Adele. And the person,
Oh, it's Adele.
pretty sure it's
That-
Adele.
Yeah.
This-
I think
this
you're right.
is
Yes,
TMZ.
I think you're right.
They sold it to Adele, and I mean, he sold it for $40 million or
Yeah.
whatever. She tore it down.
What?
Yes.
What?
The
Yeah.
house that you love.
Just one
How
of the
could you
land.
tear down such a beautiful house? Honestly.
Well, Sly wasn't living in squalor. Like, even if it's an older style
Yeah.
house, he did the kitchen and the bathrooms to the nines.
No, it was amazing.
Right.
So she,
Whoa.
Beverly Park Mansion sits on more than 3 acres. Originally listed in 2021 for $110 million,
$110 million.
but she didn't pay that.
How could you tear
She
it
didn't
down?
pay 110, but she had to pay 50.
She liked the lot?
Yeah, she
I
paid
guess?
58.
58
That
and took
is-
a bulldozer to it. I mean, you want to talk.
Oh, wow.
You find people in Arkansas in the 1950s and try to explain.
Yeah.
I bought a house for $58 million and I took a bulldozer to it. I don't know. There's pictures or somewhere you can find it, but
Yeah.
she took a bulldozer to this place, Chris.
How does Sly feel about that?
She didn't just rip out one room and it's going to
Leveled it.
put up new carpeting in the guest room or something. I think she leveled the whole place.
Yeah.
I mean, you got.
Yeah, I think I saw it on TMZ.
I don't even
saw it
know
on
how
TMZ.
to. I don't
This
even
is-
know how to think about this.
She gutted it. Gutted.
What
with
is she,
bulldozers.
What's she going to do to it?
I don't know.
I
But
mean, it
she's
was
Adele.
it
She
was a
does what she wants.
21,000 square foot, 8-bedroom, 12-bathroom house.
Wow.
It was an unbelievable house.
All right, Alan
Okay.
Dershowitz is waiting in the queue, so let's bring this home. Chris D'Elia shows all over the place. Go to chrisdelia.com and watch his very funny stand-up special, Chris D'Elia, Grow or Die, and it's available at chrisdelia.com. And let's support those who do it for themselves.
Thank you.
Always great to see you, Chris.
Thank you, guys. I love coming here and appreciate you.
Anytime. I'll talk to the great attorney and professor, Alan Dershowitz, right after this. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Well, they have a holiday gift guide, and it's here. So if you're struggling with gift ideas, they have something for everyone with gifts starting at under $10. They've got deals for the mechanic on your list, and you can save on work lights, tools, and more, and help those who like to help themselves. Choose from great gift ideas to help someone make their car look its best inside and out, and save on cleaning supplies like washing and drying cloths, floor mats, steering wheel covers, seat covers. It's all there. The holiday gift guide also has the emergency supplies you need for your loved ones to stay safe. Save now on tire inflators and Super Start 12-foot jumper cables. The professional parts people will help you pick out the perfect gift for that hard-to-buy-for person on your list this year. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts or shop O'ReillyAuto.com.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Alan Dershowitz's birthday cocktail party for September 1st. Let's see who's invited. The author of Tarzan of the Apes, Edgar Rice Burroughs, is here. The announcer for the Jack Benny Show. Let's welcome Dawn Wilson. Here comes the undefeated world heavyweight champion from 1952 to 56 from Brockton, Mass., Rocky Marciano. Country singer Conway Twitty just walked in. Lily Tomlin joined the party. TV doctor Phil McGraw. Martial artist Billy Blanks is here. So is Gloria Estefan. From the Bee Gees, Barry Gibb just walked in. And from Archie Bell and the Drells, tighten up for Archie Bell. Alan Dershowitz is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Alan Dershowitz has joined us. He has a book out. He has a few books. Well, he has a million books out, but his latest book, War Against the Jews, How to End Hamas Barbarism. It's available tomorrow wherever you find finer books. I was enjoying your conversation with my dear friend Dennis Prager a week or so ago, so I feel like I've read the book. Good to see you, Alan.
Well, good. Thank you. I go back with Dennis a long time. We went to competing yeshivas in Brooklyn back in the 1950s when I was rooting for Rocky Marciano, who was one of my heroes. I never knew we shared a birthday, so thank you for giving me that information.
The book, I'm basically an atheist, not Jewish, had a step-grandfather who was a Hungarian Jew who fled during World War II because his family was being exterminated. And I learned a lot from him, and I've always just been a fan of the Jews without any attachment to them. Spiritual attachment, but not religious attachment. But I've always been like, the Jews aren't the problem. Wherever they are, they're not the problem, and that's just my bird's eye view of the Jews, and I've never wavered from it. And it's even stronger today. I can't figure out why so many people don't share that opinion.
Well, I'm a fan of a lot of Jews. I'm also an enemy of a lot of Jews. I'm an enemy of Norman Finkelstein, who is a Jewish anti-Semite. Gertrude Stein, who supported Adolf Hitler and nominated him for the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, so there are good Jews and there are bad Jews, and there are religious Jews and there are secular Jews like me. But the one thing that unites all Jews is that so many people hate us without understanding, without any good reason. They just hate Jews. Sometimes it comes from the right, sometimes it comes from the left. Today it even comes from the center. And people forget that the attack on Jews didn't start when Israel went into Gaza. It started the day after the horrible barbarism of October 7th, when women were raped and children beheaded and burned. That's when the attack on Jews began. The National Lawyers Guild, which has branches in every major university in the United States, praised Hamas, said it was a good thing. It was a military reaction to occupation. 32 Harvard groups blamed the rapes on Israel. This is before Israel sent a single soldier into Gaza. So this is not about ceasefires. This is not about the Palestinians. It's only about the Jews and whether there should be a single state in the world that is the nation state of the Jewish people. And in my book, The War Against the Jews, I document this from the beginning. I go into the history of Gaza, the history of the Palestinians, how they could have had a state 5 times if they had just said yes or even maybe. But instead, they always said no. As Abi Ibn once said, the Palestinian leadership doesn't know how to take yes for an answer. And their response has been violence. And now we're seeing it on college campuses. And it's coming to a theater near you. If you think Hamas will be satisfied by just, closing down a few Jewish-owned stores in Philadelphia or attacking Jews here and there, they won't be. They're going to engage in the kind of violence that we saw during the 1970s with the Weathermen and people like that who blew up schools, tried to blow up army bases. It's coming to a theater near you.
What do you make? I mean, I understand Hamas. And then, I don't understand them, but I do know what their mission statement is. And then you go to the aforementioned college campuses, and they drag these leaders, presidents of Harvard and UMass and MIT, or UPenn, I should say, and MIT, and they cannot summon the strength to just say, we don't condone these words or this behavior. I mean, they literally wiggle around, or you could be talking about the Squad and Rashida Tlaib and so on and so forth. They say out of one corner of their mouth that they stand with the Jews and there's nothing, everyone has the right to X, Y, and Z. But the other side of their mouth, they can't quite spit the words out. What is that?
You put it exactly right. They have to always talk out of 2 sides of their mouth. A friend of mine who was a major president of a major university until recently said the one quality that is not a criteria for being a college president is courage.
Right.
These people have no courage. They have no principles. They put their fingers up to the wind. They change their mind as soon as donors call and say, we're not going to send any more money in. Or when the federal government says we're going to investigate, then they come up with statements that apologize for the previous statements. The University of Pennsylvania president apologized. The Harvard University president apologized. Look, these presidents are the wrong people at the wrong time in the wrong job. What happened is there were trends in who became president. When I started teaching at Harvard in 1964, no Jews need apply. There was not a single Jewish president of a major university, not a single Jewish dean at Harvard College. And the president of Harvard made it clear, we don't want a Jewish president. We want a WASP Brahmin president. That's what Harvard stands for. Then there was a period of time when a lot of Jews became presidents of Harvard, of Yale, of Penn, of you name it, lots and lots of schools. Then what happened just recently is every president has to be woke. Most of them are female, progressives, as many people as you can possibly get who are people of color. And I like the fact that there's a diversity among the people who are being picked, but there's no diversity of opinion. They all come from the same cookie cutter. They're all woke, progressive cowards, and they will not stand up for principle, because if they do, they know what happens to them. Larry Summers was the perfect example. He was a president of courage, and he was a president of principle, and he made a statement that he honestly believed about genetic differences that may explain why women are discriminated against in certain areas of mathematics. He got fired. By that standard, by the Larry Summers standard, each of these 3 presidents has to be fired. What they did was so embarrassing to the university, so embarrassing to education, and so embarrassing to them. But don't worry, because the Harvard Gazette, which is the Pravda, the house organ of Harvard, praised President Gay. Oh, what a great job she did. She stood up, etc. You read that article in the Harvard Gazette and you say, is that the same event that I just saw on television?
Well, also, if you're wearing your attorney hat, and I'm guessing you were, it didn't even really track in a linear fashion. They were saying, basically annihilate the Jews is that hate speech, And they were saying, well, if it turns into actions, then it is. And I was like, if it turns into actions, that means there's dead Jews. Like, everyone knows there's a law on every book in America that if you physically assault anybody, Jew or not, or terminate that person, Jew or not, that's a crime. But they kept saying, if it goes into something physical. And it's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. Of course, if it turns into something physical, that's universal. We're asking you to condemn the statement.
Well, and they have, when the statements have been directed against blacks, gays, transgender people.
Of course.
I had a student I represented in pro bono. He was admitted to one of the great law schools. And he is gay, and he went to a gay event and he saw a transgender person, and he said something unpleasant, just said something unpleasant about transgender people. His acceptance was withdrawn just because of what he said. But if he had instead said, I think all Jews should be subject to genocide, oh, they're not going to rescind his admission for that. It's the double standard.
Yes.
It's the fact that no university would stand for any faculty member saying that every black should be sent back to Africa or subject to genocide. Every woman should be raped. Every transgender person should be killed. If they said anything like that, they would immediately be fired and any student would be expelled. And you can't have a double standard for Jews or for the nation state of the Jewish people. And all the presidents failed to deal with that very important issue.
Well, you're getting to a much bigger and possibly more dangerous subject, which is the sort of double standard. There's the way the DOJ treats Hunter Biden. There's the way they treat January 6 protesters. There's what they do in terms of Donald Trump and his family and his financial matters. And then there's Joe Biden and his family and his financial matters. And I think what most Americans, including myself, are fearful of is the double standard.
No. I agree with you completely. I think Americans love the double standard. I think they love it. And half of Americans want to see Donald Trump persecuted to the hilt, but don't want to see the same standard applied to Hunter Biden. And the other half want to see Hunter Biden prosecuted and don't want to see it applied. I lost all my friends on Martha's Vineyard because I refused to apply a double standard. I applied the same standard to right and to left. I would be just as opposed to the current impeachment of President Biden as I was to the impeachment of Donald Trump. I myself, I'm a centrist liberal Democrat. I supported and voted for Biden. And I don't want to see him impeached, but I didn't want to see President Trump impeached because he didn't commit impeachable conduct under the Constitution. So I wish you were right that most Americans hate the double standard. Some do, people like you and me who are principled. We hate the double standard, but too many Americans want the double standard. They love me when I defend people. I have a funny story about that. I was once defending Michael Milken and Mike Tyson at the same time, a billionaire and the heavyweight champ of the world. People would come over to me at the airport and throw their arms around me and say, thank you for defending Mike. But Mike, it was. And usually I could tell by the way they would dress or maybe. But nobody wanted me to defend both Mike Tyson and Mike Milken. They wanted me to defend only the person they wanted me to defend.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's whose ox is getting gored, and that's a very sad way to run a country, and it really is not going to work that way. And when I say most people, no, you're exactly right. This group has that agenda. That group has that agenda. Yeah. I say most people, it's wishful thinking. I just want the DOJ or the FBI or whomever we're dealing with to just have the Lady Justice keep the blindfold on.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you. People now have the cliche all the time. Well, of course, Donald Trump shouldn't get immunity for what he did as president. No one's above the law. Duh, have you read the Constitution? Senators and congressmen are above the law. They can't be prosecuted for what you and I could be prosecuted for. Do you know that for years, senators and congressmen could trade on inside information and become billionaires? And if any of us traded information, we'd be in jail. So our constitutional system does place some people above the law. They place judges above the law. There's a famous case, where a judge conspired with a father. the father didn't like the fact that his young white daughter was going out with a black man. And so telling her that she had an appendicitis operation, she got the judge to sign an order having her tubes tied. And because he didn't want her to be pregnant by a black guy.
Right.
Marries a white guy. And years later, she can't have a baby. She goes to the doctor. The doctor says your tubes are tied. So they sued the judge for allowing this, knowing this. And the United States Supreme Court said, no, judges are above the law. You can't sue a judge or prosecute a judge for doing such a terrible thing as conspiring with a white racist to prevent his daughter from having a baby. No, judges are above the law. Senators are above the law. Congressmen are above the law. But if you say that Donald Trump's above the law, oh my God, you're in favor of a dictatorship and a tyranny. No, one law for everybody.
You share a quality that my very good friend Mark Garagos has, which is, you must know him well.
Like him.
He's a neighbor and just a great friend and just a great guy if you know him. He likes taking unpopular cases. And unfortunately, that gets you thrown out of the cocktail party at Martha's Vineyard, or it doesn't get you thrown out. You don't get the invite. And the 90-second why, and so on and so forth. And I know I'd like to get into that with you as well. But what is it about you and or Mark Garagos that has this gene of saying, I want to take high-profile, unpopular cases that are not going to get me hugged at the airport?
Well, I think part of it may have to do with our ethnicity. I'm Jewish. He's Armenian. We both have long histories of being discriminated against and being bullied. I grew up with my father, who didn't graduate high school, but he had a deep sense of justice. And he always said to me, you have to defend the underdog. And you always have to criticize up, not down. Don't ever pick on people who are of a lower status than you. Only pick on people who have a higher status than you. And that was imbued in me from the time I was very, very young. And so when I went to Brooklyn College, I defended the rights of communists. I hated communism. I thought it was the most horrible form of government. But when professors were being thrown out of Brooklyn College because they were communists, I came to their defense. I defended Nazis who wanted to march in Skokie, Illinois, in a Jewish community. So for me, it's always been a case of defending the unpopular and the underdog. And as long as I can have a cocktail occasionally with Mark Garagos and he with me, I think we'd both be happy. We don't have to go to these cocktail parties. I don't think John Adams was invited to many cocktail parties after he defended the people accused of the Boston Massacre. I don't think Abraham Lincoln went to too many cocktail parties either, when he defended as many guilty murderers as he did with great success. The American system and the Constitution requires that everybody get a defense. And my attitude, because I had tenure at Harvard for 50 years, I couldn't be fired. My attitude was always, if I don't defend the worst, the most unpopular, the most despicable people in the world, how can I tell my students to do it? So I always took the lead in defending the most unpopular people, and I still do.
What are some of the things that have changed in your life talking about the 90-second why? I've spoke there once when I launched a book many years ago, very popular in Manhattan at least, and the Martha's Vineyard crowd and Harvard. And in general, I have, I work in Hollywood. I make my feelings known about subjects, and I've definitely been shunned a time or two. I understand it. Yours is on a slightly different level in a different arena, but yet this is happening. The people who complain the most about McCarthyism are essentially trying to practice McCarthyism, which I find ironic. But what's behind it, and what does it mean, and some of the stories or experiences you've had?
Well, a lot of it is self-righteousness, and a lot of it is we know it's right, and we don't want to hear opposing points of view. The 92nd Street Y is a perfect example. It's supposed to be the place where all kinds of views are expressed. I was the second most popular speaker in the history of the 92nd Street Y. Only Elie Wiesel was asked more often. I spoke every single year, and as you know, you don't get paid, you get paid a pittance. for speaking at the 92nd Street Y, but I always liked the audience because it was a mixture of Manhattanites, and then they always had it on closed-circuit television. It could be seen around the country. And I have been completely banned, even during this time where Israel is being attacked, and I'm one of the most articulate, I think, spokespeople for Israel. At least that's what the Prime Minister and President of Israel have said. In fact, the cover of my book says, as always, Professor Alan Dershowitz presents a compelling case in defense of the state of Israel, voices the truth about the atrocities which were carried out by Hamas. Isaac Herzog, President of Israel. But I cannot speak on behalf of Israel at the 92nd Street Y. I can't speak at the Cardozo Law School, which is a Jewish law school which was originated by Yeshiva University. I was offered the deanship of that school, but the dean recently wrote saying, no, we're not ready to hear from Alan Dershowitz. He'd be too disruptive on the campus. I can't speak at Temple Emmanuel. I can't speak at the library of Martha's Vineyard. I don't mind missing the cocktail parties. That's just me. My wife doesn't like cocktail parties. What I object to is the fact that people who want to hear me are denied the right to hear me at the 92nd Street Y. People forget the First Amendment has two aspects. My right to speak, but your right to hear me. And your right to hear me at the 92nd Street Y has been denied. Your right to hear me at Cardozo Law School has been denied. And that's the problem. Today, we're so sure of our points of view, we don't want to hear opposing points of view. We only want points of view that satisfy our feeling. Oh, wow, we're so self-righteous. We agree with the speaker. No, have speakers you disagree with.
What's your feeling on how this is going to shake out? I mean, I think right-thinking people realize Hamas just needs to be destroyed. There's only one way forward, and that's eradicating Hamas. And since Hamas hides among civilians, then that means there's going to be a certain amount of collateral damage. Try to keep it at some of its lowest numbers. I think people don't realize that in any war, there's a ratio of civilians to combatants. And I don't know, maybe Iraq, it was 3 or 4 to 1 with America, 3 or 4 civilians per soldier. I think Israel's got it down to 2 to 1, which is statistically low, which is all stuff that nutty, emotional people don't want to hear, but it actually makes a difference when you're talking about this. So Hamas needs to go. If they're going to hide amongst the civilian population, then a percentage of those people are going to perish as well. And then what?
Well, first of all, it's not the fault of the nutty people. If it bleeds, it leads. I can understand people seeing dead bodies of children complaining. It's the fault of CNN and the New York Times.
Yes.
Hamas calls it, they call it the CNN strategy. I call it the dead baby strategy. It's very simple. They've been using it now for 20 years. You kill as many Jews as possible in as brutal a fashion as possible, knowing that Israel has to react. You then put your fighters, your tunnels, your terrorists, your rockets among civilians, knowing that babies will die. Then you get ready to hold the babies up in front of the TV cameras and in front of the New York Times. They report it, and then the world turns against Israel. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Do you remember when we were kids, there was a song called Michael Finnegan, Begin Again, Begin Again? That's what this is. Hamas does it over and over again, and it will never, ever stop until CNN and the New York Times break the cycle by saying, look, every time a civilian baby is killed, it's the fault of Hamas. I'll give you an example from common everyday. Let's assume I go rob a bank and the police come in and start shooting at me, and I grab you as a hostage and I hold you in front of me and I start shooting, and I kill a policeman, I kill a teller, I kill a bank customer. And then a brave policeman takes aim at me trying to kill me, but I move and by accident he kills you. Who's responsible for your death? Who's the murderer? Not the policeman who made the shot, but the hostage taker who was holding you in front of him. And the same thing is true with Hamas. They are responsible for the death of every human shield that was killed by Israeli fire in Gaza. Israel should and does take more precautions than any other country in the world. Richard Kemp, who was the head of NATO forces in Afghanistan, did an analysis of that. And he found that Israel has the best record of protecting civilians in warfare and urban warfare than any country in the history of warfare. And yet, if you ask people who watch CNN, if you ask people who read the New York Times, they'll say Israel is the worst offender of all countries in the world. And when the best is called the worst, you know it's the reporting that's at fault.
Well, speaking of CNN, look, if you interviewed your average CNN viewer and you said, how many people who, a year ago, how many people who can track COVID die or are hospitalized, they'd say 80%. And if you said, how many innocent black men are shot by racist cops per year, they'd say 5,000. They're skewed from watching this, obviously, and the same carries right along to, they'd say Hunter Biden's laptop wasn't real. 51 intelligence experts signed off on that fact. If you ask them a couple of years, they're wrong about everything. But the question is what's in it for CNN to lose this much? A small experiment. I work here with handfuls of young people. If you would have said to them 5 or 8 years ago, what do you think about CNN? They'd go, fine, they do the news. If they said to them today, CNN said, they go, I'm not really listening anymore. Why are they compromising their brand? Why are they playing so fast and loose with their brand? What's the end game? Los Angeles Times, New York Times, same thing. What's in it for them to play it this way?
Well, selling soap, and they're not doing a great job of it because CNN's statistics are way down, but that's all they're interested in. Remember what television is. Television is advertising interspersed with a little bit of content to keep the viewers so that they can get large amounts of money from their advertisers. It's all advertisement driven, but it's also ideologically driven because NPR, which doesn't have advertising, is even more skewed against Israel and against conservatives than CNN is skewed. So you have the government also being on one side of this. The problem is today, Walter Cronkite could not get a job on television. Walter Cronkite would have to have a podcast. CBS wouldn't hire him, ABC wouldn't hire him, NBC, CNN, nobody would hire him because he's fair. He doesn't have an agenda. I knew Walter Cronkite at the end of his life. I was on his boat. He used to come to Martha's Vineyard. He was one of the people in Martha's Vineyard who actually liked me. And Walter Cronkite actually had strong political beliefs. He was very much to the left. You'd never know that watching television. And by the way, you'd never know what my political beliefs were if you had been my student for 50 years at Harvard. In 50 years at Harvard, teaching 10,000 students, I never once expressed a personal view in the classroom. Never once. My job was not to teach them what to think, but to teach them how to think. And the president of MIT the other day, who has no understanding of what academic freedom means, you know what she said in front of Congress? She said academic freedom means that any professor can say anything they want in the classroom. She's just dead wrong. Maybe they can say what they want outside the classroom, but if you're teaching math at MIT and you start ranting about how blacks are inferior or gays are immoral, you're going to get fired. There's no doubt about that. And you should get fired. Academic freedom does not allow you to take over a class where the students have to attend and where you're grading them and where they can't respond to you and allow a professor to use that monopoly to say whatever he wants. That's just not the fact. And if the president of MIT doesn't know it, how many other presidents of universities have no understanding of freedom of speech, the First Amendment, academic freedom, and hate speech?
Hey, do you have any predictions with the upcoming elections, Trump, in terms of his legal predicaments, thoughts? I mean, the Trump case out of New York sounds bizarre, a little Orwellian and baseless to me. Also, the fact that the DA was running on a platform of elect me and then I'll go find something on Trump seems very un-American, but...
I wrote a book entitled Get Trump, and I didn't invent the title. It was Letitia James's campaign promise. She promised to get Trump no matter what, regardless of the facts, regardless of the law. If she didn't succeed in getting Trump, she would not be reelected. But because New York is so heavily Democrat and so heavily anti-Trump, and D.C. is so heavily anti-Trump, and Fulton County is so heavily anti-Trump, my prediction, he will be convicted. And he may even be convicted in one or two of the cases before the election. Then the convictions will be reversed, but the reversals will come only after the election. And so it will be essentially election interference, because what we'll have on the day of the election is a convicted candidate who subsequently might be vindicated, but whose vindication wouldn't come until after he's occurred. By the way, never listen to predictions by lawyers on CNN. They have the worst group of lawyers who wouldn't pass the bar exam, or wouldn't pass, even with great inflation, wouldn't pass law school classes based on the predictions they make. They're always wrong. Why are they always wrong? Because they don't make predictions. They make wishful thinking.
Right.
That what they want to happen will happen. And they've been wrong in almost every instance. And that's what's so terrible about the media today. There's no distinction between personal views and reporting. The New York Times now puts its editorials, without calling them editorials, but they put editorials on page one. Let me give you an example. They had a page one article, the lead article, saying that Israel has killed more civilians than any country in modern history. And then buried about halfway through the article, it said, well, we have no idea how many civilians were killed, because even Hamas doesn't distinguish between its terrorists and its civilians. So if there are 15,000 total dead, assuming that's a fair number, which it probably is not, and half of them are Hamas fighters, or a third of them are Hamas fighters, and then others have been killed by rockets coming from Hamas or Islamic Jihad, and others are people who help put Hamas rockets in their houses or help build tunnels under the house. When we deduct all of that, how many actual innocent civilians are there? Well, every child obviously is an innocent civilian, but we don't know how many there are. Hamas lists children. Children are 18 and a half years old who are carrying guns and throwing Molotov cocktails. The definition of a child by Hamas is 19 or under, and yet they recruit children 13 and above. So the vast majority of children who have been killed probably are people between the ages of 13 and 19, and there have been some below that as well. But the Times didn't bother to make those distinctions. They just had a general statement about civilians being killed, acknowledging that they don't know how many of them are civilians.
Well, pardon the pun, but those are the times we're living in. What they do is they go, well, there's going to be a hostage exchange. Hamas is going to give up some women and children hostages, and Israel's going to give back some of their women and children hostages, which would lead any normal person who was reading the paper to think that Israel just takes random hostages like Hamas takes. They don't know that they're militants, that they tried to stab people or throw Molotov cocktails. That's what the Times does. And I'm not sure what's in it for them. I get it. They got to sell soap, and maybe that's their audience. But it still seems weird to me to be a newspaper and be that inaccurate.
Well, I think it's more than the selling soap when it comes to the Times. I think with the Times, it's the ideology. The kids that are marching today for Hamas are going to be in the editorial rooms and the news reports of the New York Times. They're going to be working for CNN. And so when you get lots of radical, woke, progressive, hard left kids who are now in the process of taking over the media, and soon will be in the process of taking over Congress, because after all, what happens to Harvard students and Yale students and MIT students when they get out? They rule the world. They run our economy. They run the media. And so what's going on in universities today is predictive of what may be happening 10, 20, 30 years from now. That's why it's so dangerous. That's why I dropped everything on October 7th and decided I had to do nothing but write this book. And now I'm basically on a tour trying to get people to read the book. All the proceeds go to charity. They all go to an organization called United Hatzalah, which is a first responder organization in Israel. They were the first people to get to the scene of the massacres. Their own people have been shot at and So I just want all the proceeds to go to good charities. And I have saved money now because I'm no longer contributing to Harvard. I'm no longer to Yale. I'm no longer contributing to Brooklyn College. I'm no longer contributing to Doctors Without Borders, no longer contributing to the Red Cross, no longer contributing to the UN. I'm contributing only to organizations that are not part of this woke, progressive, anti-Semitic group. Doctors Without Borders are among the worst now. They have become the spokesperson for Hamas. They get on television, they lie, they give the Hamas line, they talk about only one side of the issue. They never ask for the hostages to be released. They never talk about the 1,200 people who were butchered or raped, and the feminists. What happened to the feminists? You don't believe women when they are Jewish women in Israel who claim they have been raped or claim they saw rape. Then you don't believe them. You only believe some women.
You know, they showed their hand in that particular instance, the feminists. And there's an example that I live in Los Angeles, and the Democrats, it's Democrat majority, and they're always talking about the kids and the poor brown kids and the black kids and access to education, stuff like that. And then somebody says, how about school choice? And they're against it. And that, to me, is them showing their hand. They're much more beholden to the union and so forth than they are their own words, which is, this is a priority. Education, young and black and brown kids. Well, here's something that would help young brown and black kids. We're against it, and we vote against it. And I feel like they show their hand, and when the feminists say nothing about the atrocities that took place in Israel, they've showed me their hand as well.
Right. Well, what I would send a group of gays for Gaza, feminists for Gaza, transgenders for Gaza, to Gaza.
Right.
And it would be, you have to give them a one-way ticket. They would never get out. And the other organization that is despicable is Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. I support the concept of Black Lives Matter. But from day one, Black Lives Matter has said what's happening to blacks in Detroit is the same thing that's happening to Palestinians in Gaza. And they have supported Hamas. And so they can't count on my support anymore. Look, I marched in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. I supported gay rights. I still do. I supported transgender rights. I supported feminism. But what have we gotten in return? Anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism from people who have benefited so much from the support of Jews. And what is the country in the Middle East that is most supportive of gay rights? Obviously Israel. And yet you can't get organizations, individual gay people support, individual black people support, individual feminists, but the organizations themselves tend to be a major source of anti-Semitism.
Well, something happened. It happened to the ACLU, it happened to PETA, it happened to the Sierra Club. All these organizations, the same thing happened to college campuses. They just started going hard radical left. And I don't know why, but they did, and they started going in a direction where you used to support all these groups, or you thought it was a good idea, and now all of a sudden the Black Lives Matter Chicago chapter is showing basically a terrorist in a kite, sailing in with the flag of Hamas behind them or Palestine behind them, and you're going, when did this happen? Now,
I'll tell you.
Yes.
When it happened. It happened when colleges started to create these multi-million-dollar bureaucracies based on so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion. These bureaucracies have become incubators for anti-Semitism, and they're against all of the values. They're not in favor of diversity. They don't want diverse ideas. They're only in favor of diversity of skin color and ethnicity. Equity is the opposite of equality. It's now a microaggression. To quote Martin Luther King, I dream of a time when my children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Equity wants people to be judged by the color of their skin, by their identity politics. And inclusion excludes Jews. And so once you had this DEI bureaucracy built, and it started with the ACLU. I was on the national board of the ACLU when people qualified for the national board based on their individual commitment to civil liberties. Then they decided to introduce quotas. a certain number of people had to be black, a certain number of people had to be women, a certain number of people had to be gay. And then each of the people who were elected had to represent their constituency. But there was no constituency for civil liberties. And so the Civil Liberties Union failed to protect civil liberties. It protected black rights, women's rights, gay rights, transgender rights, but the rights of all Americans who don't belong to identity politics, no, there was no constituency. The same thing is true in universities today. There's nobody there to stand for principle. Everybody is part of a group. Today, when you go to college, you specialize in black studies or in women's studies or in gay studies. You don't specialize in learning. You don't specialize in learning how to think. And it becomes a zero-sum game. These ethnic groups are pitted against each other. And not surprisingly, the victims often are Jews, Catholics, religious Christians, and white people in general. It's a kind of reverse bigotry that has destroyed universities. And we saw that at play when these three, I call them the three, monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, the three college presidents. They represent what American universities stand for today. The wrong people in the wrong job at the wrong time. For example, the president of Harvard, before she was picked, she had already established her reputation as being woke anti-civil liberties. There was a great professor who was in one of the colleges, and he was very popular. Everybody loved him. But he represented for 1 month Harvey Weinstein. And Claudia Gay, who was then the dean, had him fired. She's going to say he wasn't fired. He just didn't have his contract renewed, but that's firing. Right. And she becomes the president of the university. After doing that, so the board of directors should have known what they were getting. They were not getting somebody who was committed to civil liberties and human rights. They were getting somebody who was a woke progressive who would listen to the claims of women in the House saying they were afraid, they were scared, they were frightened because there was a dean who actually defended somebody in court they didn't like. But she turns a blind eye to the Jewish students who say, we're really frightened because people are calling for our genocide. Well, it's a matter of context.
Well, may you live in interesting times, I think the adage goes, and boy, are we in it. The book is called War Against the Jews, How to End Hamas Barbarism, and also you should check out War on the Woke as well, because Alan is, I don't know, I find you fascinating. I admire your energy. I admire your stamina. 85 years young, still a flamethrower, still bringing it. I'll tell Mark Garagos you said hi when we wrap it up here.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa to everybody.
The great Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for joining us. Okay. All right, let's see. You can go to adamcarolla.com. I'm going to be at Rancho Mirage Agua Caliente Casino stand-up this Saturday. Second show added. First show sold out, but some for the second. Solana Beach coming up, Belly Up. That'll be with Fitzdog and Skinny Jody Miller. That'll be January 7th. 2 shows there. Always fun at that club. Go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. And I want to thank Chris D'Elia for bringing it in here today. ChrisD'Elia.com for a special and all the dates. And, of course, Alan Dershowitz for bringing it as well. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Chris Max Better. Alan Dershowitz and Chris D'Elia. Say it. Mahala.